Hello, good morning, and welcome to another Business Spotlight. I am Tony Tono with Action Coach Tampa Bay. Excited to have Jordan here today. Jordan, welcome.
Thank you, Tony. Glad to be here.
Awesome, awesome. So Jordan, tell us a little bit about what you do and how long you've been doing that.
Oh, well, thank you. It's mostly, I guess, to put it into one sentence, it's television syndication, production, and distribution. So essentially what I do is I go to sporting events, both domestically and internationally, and I produce the television side of things. And then I take the final product after post-production, editing the show, and sell it to television affiliates and television networks. So it's essentially distribution, syndication, and production of sports content. And I specialize in combat sports. So I'm doing a lot of mixed martial arts, boxing, Lethwei, Muay Thai, some exotic styles from Asia, some kickboxing from Eastern Europe, a lot of boxing and a lot of mixed martial arts.
Okay. Now, how long have you been doing this?
This will be 19 years. Before that, I was a traditional sportscaster, but 9-to-5 mentality where I just would come in and do my thing,
right,
and get my money that night and go home and be happy. But it's been 19 years of hanging my shingle and being a businessman and actually producing the content myself and selling it.
I love that. Congrats. I
Thank
don't know
you.
if you're, yeah, man. I don't know if you're familiar with the statistics, but 85% of businesses go out of business in the first 5 years.
Whoa. I
Yeah,
didn't,
and
it's probably good that I didn't know that stat.
And 90%, yeah, and 90% in 10. So congratulations, you are in the elite group.
Thank you. Thank you, Tony. That you made my day. Yeah, that's that's really good to hear. There's definitely some highs and lows, no question about that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So who's a good who's a good customer for you?
Well, I have customers kind of on both ends. So I have one set of customers that would be the television networks. My largest television network is NBC. So I have deals in place with all of the NBC sports regional networks, including Los Angeles, California, New York, all the big cities, Boston, Chicago. So that's kind of one customer. I need to keep them happy. My content has to be well produced.
Right.
And then the other main customer for me would be the actual promoters of the event itself.
Okay.
They need to be happy. So I need to do a good job telling their story. They have fighters who they put on their cards, and they have a brand, and there's definitely brand messaging that I need to get it right.
Right.
Based on their story. And with every different state I do shows in, and certainly every different country I do shows in, that story is vastly different. So that can be tough ground to walk, but I enjoy walking it. And as long as I have happy promoters and happy television networks, I can keep that shingle on the wall.
I like it. I like it. So it's been 2 decades. What kind of changes have you seen specifically in the last couple of years with everything that's been going on with your business?
Well, everything used to be linear. Everything used to be broadcast, and everything used to be, bunny ears. And there were probably only 5 or 6 players in the space. Now, with the whole streaming revolution, and everybody has a smartphone, everybody's a producer, everybody's a director, everybody's creating content. Really, you've probably noticed this as well, Tony, that content is king.
Yeah.
Having great content, whatever it is, whether you're a regular traditional sports producer, director, or a movie producer, or, you're trying to get messaging out about your brand, you need people who know how to write good copy and produce good copy. But everything's video now. I'll ask you, I think you're right around my age. When you need to learn something, are you reading anymore, or are you going to YouTube and watching someone demonstrate it for you visually?
Yeah. And that's the truth, right? So if I'm working on my 67 Mustang, it's YouTube, right?
Right.
So, you're 100% correct. And the sad thing is I've got a big old mechanic book. And I think I've looked in it maybe 5 times since 2008 when I got the car. So you're 100% right.
It's just easier to have someone explain it to you. You get to watch them doing it rather than to read these manuals like we did in the
Mhm,
old days.
mhm.
Video is king. And fortunately, I've been doing video now for 40 plus years.
Yeah.
I'm decent at it, and I love telling people stories. I'm honored when a fighter entrusts me with telling his or her story because
Mm,
of what these fighters go through in order to
mhm.
make it into that cage or into that ring.
Yeah.
And there's usually more often than not a pretty poignant story behind them getting into that cage.
Yeah.
And I'm honored when they entrust me with it.
I love that. I love that. So what would you say is one of the biggest learnings that you've had since becoming a business owner?
These are good questions, Tony. This is not your first rodeo, I can tell.
No. But
Biggest
this is
lesson
fun.
I've learned. The biggest lesson I've learned is probably um, going back to the story that's entrusted with me is um, being vulnerable.
Mm,
And so when I'm on site and we're doing it, we call it fight week because you get
mm,
there about a week early. And I'm interviewing fighters and I'm working with my production crew and I'm working with the promoter. I think keeping the ego in check
yeah.
and being vulnerable and speaking truth. And when I don't understand something, just saying, I don't understand. I don't get this. What are you trying to say? What are you trying to do? And
Yeah.
I'm lost. And I always thought, the world caves in when you admit you're lost or you don't know what you're doing. And I had this resistance to ever doing that, being that vulnerable. And it was strange when I started doing that and saying, I don't know.
Mm,
I realized that was one of the most powerful sentences I've ever learned to say. I don't
mm,
know. It creates a freedom. It creates a room to breathe in a conversation, and it lets the other person be the expert. And I learn. I
yeah.
realize how much I don't know.
Yeah.
Staying
Yeah.
curious is
I
probably
love
the
that.
yeah.
I love that. Years ago, I had this is years and years ago, had a owner of a business say, you know what, you're coachable. You're going a long, long way in life. And that's basically what you're saying. When you don't know what you don't know, but you're willing to figure out what it is and get it applied, that's being coachable. And that's why you've been in business for almost 2 decades. And I love that.
Well, thanks. And you know what? You triggered a memory. I'm going to give a shout out to my son, Parker,
I love it.
who every single sports team he's ever been on, without fail, every coach comes to me and said he's the most coachable kid on the team. And
Mm,
I watch him and I learn lessons from him,
mhm.
his humility and his curiosity. And my wife and I learned the trick to getting Parker to do anything is just to say, I bet you can't. And he just tunes in and he's so self-disciplined. So I he's been my coach. Parker's been my coach.
I
So
love that.
shout out to him when you say being coachable.
Yeah, I like that a lot. So do you have anything coming up that you want to share with everyone? I don't know, event or any kind of offer or community thing going on?
Well, I would love it if people came over to unitedfightalliance.com and checked out our television schedule. Uh, there is a network whoever's watching this, wherever you are, there's a network where you can watch our fights and give mixed martial arts and boxing a shot if you've never watched it.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things I noticed when I went to an MMA event and went my first couple of times and went in the background and went to the locker rooms and some of the back rooms was the vibe was amazing. It was a peaceful
Mm,
vibe. Everybody's hugging each other, was laughing and
mm,
relaxed. And it's not what you think it is.
right.
I was definitely surprised when I first started getting into MMA. It's not what you think it is. So give MMA a chance. And then my podcast is For the Fighter in You, and it's on all of the big platforms: Spotify, Amazon, Facebook, Google, YouTube, pretty much a Podbean, anywhere you can hear a podcast. For the Fighter in You is there, and that's dealing with our inner fighter.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of biohacking in there if you're trying to get well. I have some of the world's best doctors who I interview,
Oh,
and
that's
some of
great.
the world's best coaches and psychologists, sports psychologists. And
Hmm.
I want to give back, and I want people to be able to access their inner fighter.
Yeah, I love that. Law of reciprocity. So give me your web page one more time that folks can go to, because I want to make
Thank
sure they
you.
catch it.
Yeah, it's unitedfightalliance.com. And you can see behind me, if you're watching the video, you see that our hashtags and there it is right there. Our Facebooks,
Nice.
our Twitter, our YouTubes. I should get out of the way, shouldn't I? Get
Ah,
my
you're
fat
fine.
head out of the way. These are my social media tags. What am I doing in the way of that? My director's going to kill me. There they are right there. They're a little blurry, but they're essentially United Fight Alliance.
Yeah, we can see
United
them.
Fight Alliance 1. We'll get you to
Nice.
all of our social media. And you can watch free fights there. There's a lot of free fights on our website as well and on YouTube. If you want to sort of get a feel. And then if you like what you see, come on to one of our live events and say hi.
I love it. I love it. So I'm going to ask you one question that might surprise you a little bit. So what inspires you and really keeps you motivated, Jordan?
Oh, that's an easy one. It's my family.
Yay.
My family.
I love it.
Investing. I'm still learning the lessons, but it's investing the time in the family. It's very easy for me. I'll keep bringing this back to me. It's easy for me to get caught up in work because I love what I do. I am doing my passion.
Yeah.
So it's real easy to, and I'm on the road quite a bit. So it's very easy to get tied up in work. And the harder I work, the more rewards I get. And it's just it's a nice closed loop of satisfaction. So I have to make sure to remember to reinvest time in the family. And I'm still not as good as I want to be. But I notice when I invest time in the family and just spend time and just stare at my kids, even if it makes them uncomfortable, but be in the room with them, just be in the room with them and stare at them and ask them what's going on in their world and stay curious about them.
Yeah.
It makes me high. It makes me high. And so it is coming back to that well-worn adage of balance, life balance, you know,
you know what
fit.
I love that, you're being very intentional, and what we know is that when you focus on something, it increases by 20%. So just being intentional with your family is going to be, so awesome to increase that ability and relationship. I always think about that. I don't know if it's Stephen Covey or Warren Buffett or somebody had mentioned, when you're on your death.
Saw.
Yeah.
One of Stephen Covey's 7 habits.
Sharpening the saw. And when you're on your deathbed, you don't say, man, I wish I would have spent more time in the office. You say, I wish I would have spent more time with my family. So the neat thing is, I'm doing the same thing, just putting things in our life so that when we are there, we're like, no, I feel great, would love to have more time, but no, I feel great. So, well, I love this. Thank you so much for being part of this interview. I want to thank everyone for being here on Business Spotlight. Again, I'm Tony Toner with Action Coach, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Thanks, Tony.
You're welcome, Jordan.